Hello and welcome to the GamerGuild Podcast, your weekly show where we round up all the week's video game stories and news for your listening or viewing pleasure right up on here on youtube.com/GamerGuild TV and also up there on Digital Cloud on your platform of choice. We've got a full house this week. Joining me is, as always, Chris
Hey gamers, hope you're all good.
and Richie, man of many
Hello,
pixels.
hello everyone.
So we've got a really interesting show for you lined up this week. We have obviously the Xbox Developer Direct breakdown. We've got some Far Cry spin-off with lasers, and we've also had a very worrying letter through from a certain company about our use of the letter R in Gamer Guild. So we do have to address this publicly for legal reasons, I'm afraid.
We do.
Do you get worried about this, Rob? Because we both our names begin with an R.
Yeah, I feel like I'm going to get sued any second. I'm waiting for like that knock on the door, really.
This could happen. Sesame Street, we've got to watch out.
Yeah, like someone's going to knock on the door. It's going to be like Nico Bellic there with like this ready to scare me. But we'll get into that and much more as we progress into the show. So before we get into the news, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really does help the channel, and any share you can do just helps us expand our reach a little bit, put a bit more joy in people's lives, and generally, makes us a bit happier as well, I feel. Make sure you also follow us on all the socials. We also have a merch store, which we like to plug every now and again. And our weekly live. Sorry, what was that?
When we remember.
Yeah, we do have a merch store. Please remember about it because sometimes we don't.
Chris is wearing part of our merch right now.
I am. I need to order the new one myself. It's that whole Christmas season. Like I keep having my eyes on like a GamerGuild TV mug and hoodie because it's damn cold at the moment. But then I also have no money, so please support us over on YouTube.com.
I have a mug. I do like my GamerGuild mug, and the hoodies are good. It's like we're both wearing like Helix. Well, I'm not wearing today, but we both have like Helix Cloud Game hoodies. It's like they're good hoodies.
They are. The material's a lot better than like the ones you get from Primark or anything like that.
Yeah. So on that note, buy them, please. Also, thank you for those of you who tuned into our weekly live stream. You guys continued on the Halo 2 run. How are you finding it?
Yeah, really enjoying it. I think we're probably going to reach the end of it this Thursday. If we get to it, I think the way looking at like some videos online, it's always hard to gauge because you don't know how long we're going to commit to it. But I'd imagine we're going to round it out. So yeah, it's ticking over nicely. Enjoying the dual protagonist approach to it. Very, very surprised. And yeah, I'm interested to see how it feeds into Halo 3 because we're at essentially the midpoint now of the whole, what would have been at the time, like the expected trilogy of story. Obviously, we know it goes well beyond 3, but at the time, Halo 1, 2, and 3, ignoring like Halo Wars and all the other stuff, pretty much was going to be the complete package. So I think we're about bang on halfway between the whole campaign or the story they're trying to tell. So yeah, thoroughly enjoying it.
Hitting the fever peak of the franchise as well. Like if you remember back to when Halo like was at its biggest, like the anticipation going in from 2 to 3 was huge. So I think you're reliving maybe the fan high points of the series as well soon. So that's cool to see.
Yeah, the one thing I will bring up, Chris, actually, just so you're aware, is I've got the guy coming around on Thursday to change my internet over. I'm not expecting anything because I'm a virgin. It should carry over for like into February a bit, so I should have that overlap. But just in case there's any weird shenanigans going.
The guy.
Yeah, the guy.
The guy who runs the internet.
Mr.
The internet man. Mr. Internet is coming to my house to give me better internet, hopefully.
So is he taking the internet from the top of Big Ben and giving it to you to take some of the internet and then taking it back, or like is he?
This is the internet. It's wireless.
Obviously. Also, you'll notice on the channel there's been a drop of the Last of Us 2 lost levels, which Chris has been kind of jumping through. How have you been finding that one?
Yeah, well, I jumped into, so I finished, I mean, we'll talk about it when we get to what we've been playing, but I had a bit of time, and the Last of Us Part 2 Remastered just launched this Friday. If you had the PS4 version, you could upgrade for £10. So knowing what they've added into the remastered one as a big Last of Us fan, it was like, well, £10 is definitely worth it with the roguelike no return mode. But for me, for the first time, Naughty Dog added in basically behind the scenes cut levels from the story campaign. So what they do is they do audio commentary over the top while you're playing through it. They do a video introduction from Neil Druckmann, and he basically explains like this was initially going to be part of it, and for whatever rhyme or reason, it was cut from the main game. And they basically explain where it would be segmented into the campaign mode, and then you get to play through that part. So there's a section in Jackson before Ellie goes and dances with Dina, so that kind of build up to a anticipation of that happens. You get to interact with a bunch of people, play some carnival games. That's really interesting. There's a part in Seattle where you would have fell in the sewer that they added a whole like puzzle area in the sewers, dealing with like water flow and how to traverse past and through that. That was cut, and then there's an element which would take place before the farm near the end of the game where Ellie actually goes out and hunts a wild animal. But it's interesting to see how they play on her suffering from essentially PTSD from the incident that happens in the game and how it would tie in. I can see like there's big elements in all three of those parts that he played that I would have loved to have been in the game, but I can see why they were pulled out at the same time. But it's very rare in games we get to see that peek behind the curtain. So to allow us to jump in on the sticks, there's some stuff missing. Obviously, textures, like some of the bins look like Lego bins because they just haven't got textures or animations, or there's like the walls are just a blank grey rather than graffiti and posters and brickwork. But overall, yeah, it's just interesting. It doesn't take too long. You can get through them all in probably about half an hour. But I thought I'll get the video up before we do like a no return look, because of course of the channel we've got the Clickercast, The Last of Us. There's a full part one playthrough, so it seems like a good interstitial step before I jump into fully play through part two before ahead of season 2 going live. So yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it. Go check it out.
Good. Yes,
watch
on
it,
the channel now. Fantastic. So at this part of the show, what we'd normally do is obviously we'll jump into the news and we'll do the slogan for it. But I want to change it up this week, just because of the actions of one of our community members, and that was Sarge this week. So obviously for you two were doing your Halo 2 stream, and Sarge dropped I think 5 new silver member gifts for the community, which were kind of picked up by Ansel, Marcos, Eterno, the Mighty C, and Krinagar Gamer, I want to say. Krinagar? Yes. I'm so sorry for butchering your handle there, my friend. So all those guys are now enjoying a silver membership, thanks to the generosity of Sarge. Sarge has been like a mainstay in the community for quite a while now. He always pops up on the live streams. He kind of always contributes, is very active, basically across everywhere where our community is. So yeah, Sarge, this next run in for you. So Chris, Richie, why don't you take it up? Would you like to introduce us to the?
Should we try and do it together and sync the whole thing?
You could go. You go, Richie.
The graciously gathered GamerGuild Gazette, aka
The news.
the news. I was trying to throw that across to you, Chris, then, but
so again, thank you, Sarge, but also thank you to all the rest of our mainstay guild heroes who support that channel just a little bit more and allow us to kind of invest in some useful tools and some useful kind of content production, which just elevates things and makes the channel on a whole stronger. So thank you all again.
Absolute hero.
Everyone's been really generous at the start of the year. Like everyone says 2024, it's January, nobody has any money, it's cold outside, it's dark, Christmas is gone, everyone's sad and depressed, and then you guys out there,
I'm not.
Your generosity, you will be when Rockstar come after you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, itchy, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna live with that.
Okay, Ob.
Itchy and Ob. Okay. So let's jump into the first news story. Probably going to be the biggest one we talk about this week, and it was, of course, the Xbox Developer Direct breakdown, and generally our reactions to what we got fed by the lovely folks at Microsoft. Let's kick it off with, I think, the one we were all collectively most anticipating, and that was Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. So we got a pretty meaty kind of trailer for the title, a bit more kind of insights into the gameplay mechanics and just general creative directions of taking. So linking it back to what we talked about last week, where we kind of speculated a fair amount because we had nothing else to really to really go on for the title. So we've had confirmation that it's going to be a first-person title. It's going to share the likeness of Harrison Ford and the classic, I guess, indie aesthetic that we're used to. Voice is good enough, I would say. And generally got a sneak peek on mechanics around lots of whipping. There was so much whipping in the trailer, I noticed,
Kinky.
which was pretty cool.
Whoopah.
But yeah, I'll hand it over to you guys. Chris, what was your I think you're very emotionally connected to the Indiana Jones franchise. So what was your reaction to seeing the trailer?
I was thrilled with it. We obviously spoke about it at length for several years now, I guess, around what it could be, and is a massive fan of Indiana Jones, and then ironically then Tomb Raider, then Uncharted, and then now the full great circle back to Indiana Jones again. We get this video game, and me and Richie are watching it along. They teased the hell out of Harrison Ford with the opening scene from behind. They had an arm in his face, like it was always obscured in some way, but you could tell. Like I think on the live stream, Richie, I was just calling it out. I was like, "That's Harrison Ford." So you could tell from the shape of his head.
It looks. Yeah, Chris was like, "Oh, the back of his head looks like Harrison Ford."
Yeah, and I think in my own mind, I was thinking like they wouldn't dare go close enough to his likeness, but not get it. Where Uncanny Valley would be obscenely intrusive in, I think, playing the game. And then we got the reveal. It's Harrison Ford, his likeness, a young Harrison Ford, taking place between Last Crusade and Raiders of the Lost Ark. So it's setting at an age and a time period that we're very, very familiar with from the movies. Troy Baker is doing the voice. I also called that out. I want to say that. Heard it, and he nails Harrison Ford, but some of the later verses in the trailer, it's definitely more Troy Baker than it is Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
And it was like, that's 100% him. And then it was weird. There was like an Entertainment Weekly exclusive announcement on who was voicing him. So that's why it wasn't in the trailer, because they brokered some deal of, I guess, story exclusive. But as it is, as Rob said, plenty of whipping. It has been confirmed it's going to be first person, which no surprise from Machine Games. But when they do things like traversal and cutscenes, they are going to pull back and show us Indiana's face. So there are elements of third. I'm over it now. I know I was hung up on that beforehand, but watching this trailer and the breakdown, it just looks so damn fun. And the music swell at the right time, and the interactions and the puzzle solving mechanics, and like you said, the whip. I don't think we've ever had a first person game that utilizes a whip, right? For like traversal,
I'm sure
disarming people.
Not to the extent that this is obviously going to be incorporated, but I'm sure there's been whips in other games. But it's probably more likely you press the attack button and it just goes like that.
Yeah, like you can like disarm people, trip them up, grab them. Like I can see it being like really unique to this world. But I think just overall, I think they hit the vibe. The music was spot on, and overall, I think the premise of it's fantastic. And I think as an Indiana Jones fan, aside from it being third person all in, this is pretty much all I could have asked for. So I can't wait. This is my most hyped game of the year now.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Oh, okay, so that's. I know it was always bubbling in the background, but that's really jumped.
Well, I think because we had it locked in, they said 2024, and we kind of know nothing else that's coming out this year, so there's not many to pick from. But as far as it goes, what more can I ask for? Now I just need to get around to playing those old PS2 games that I've been talking about for weeks, because I need to understand the lore and everything leading up to it. Surely,
back to those PS2 games. Who knows?
Because them PS2 games are going to be so relevant to this.
It's going to be so many Easter eggs.
Yeah.
I
Richie,
do need to probably.
yourself?
Well, Chris, I actually do need to probably borrow the. I'm assuming you got the Blu-rays. I'm probably going to have to borrow them off you, because I haven't watched Indiana Jones since I was a kid.
So
it's like
Richie.
I don't have the same level of attachment as Chris.
Yeah. So how did you receive? I guess the game as more of just a piece of gaming. Like, are you still excited for it?
Yeah, I think it looks like a fantastic game. It kind of does have a kind of I love Uncharted. It kind of has like, what if they made an Uncharted game in first person kind of vibe going on? But obviously, it's coming out into third person through certain action scenes, and it's like, okay, I'm very much liking the look of this. I've always thought with things like Bethesda and ZeniMax games, the first person thing doesn't bother me that much, but I think it's why I was a bit down on Avowed. Sometimes they come across as very, very samey. You can tell when you're playing one, but I think with this having the Indiana Jones IP over it, and the way they're incorporating the lore of Indiana Jones into the mechanics, like Chris mentioning the whip, I think will elevate this game to make it quite a unique experience, and I think that's what I kind of need from a first-person game, give me something that makes it not just feel like a Skyrim clone or like a first-person or Call of Duty clone when I'm in first person. You need that little bit of something else, and I think this game's got it.
Yeah, I think it's probably worth. It's probably a good comparison between. Do you remember like the Quantum of Solace? I can't remember the Quantum of Solace, but like the James Bond games that came out like at the very start of the Daniel Craig era, and they were very much just a
Like
Call of
Bloodstone.
Duty. No, I think it was even before that. I can't remember what it was called now, but that was very much like a Call of Duty reskin, and it suffered from it. But like as you said, I do feel like this game has potential. A few more mechanics, a bit more focus on, I don't know, make like almost reminding you you're in like an Indiana Jones game
Yeah.
because you won't have his face. I think it's done enough to do it based off what we've seen.
Yeah. Like the puzzle mechanics look cool as well.
Yeah, well, the game in itself, the difference with video games compared, I know the movies have came under some recent criticism, but the great thing with video games is they have to be so meticulously made and they pass through so many hands. It's not kind of all on, I would say, like a director or a producer. It's broken out, and the great thing is they can go back and they can cut and chop and rework. I mean, we just discussed it with The Last of Us. You can literally just wait until the 11th hour and just ditch something if it doesn't work for the flow, the pacing, anything like that. Whereas movies are very different because then you need to get on location, get the actor back in, shoot on set. Whereas this, you just have to tweak some coding and you can make segments totally different or change them. Obviously not as easy as that, but you know what I mean. So I think the trappings of this look like it could probably be the best form of Indiana Jones we've had since the 80s.
Yeah,
by the fact
definitely.
that it's like he can be eternally young, Harrison Ford, because he's no longer an 82-year-old man doing stuff like he did in Dial of Destiny, which I was saying to Richie, who hasn't seen Dial of Destiny, there's like a whole segment of that movie, about 20 minutes, with a de-aged Harrison Ford. So
Yeah.
the likeness in this game and why it probably looks so good is, I'm guessing they've got to have shared that with Lucasfilm. Like they've got the most up-to-date 3D young scans of Harrison Ford, probably in existence of any other actor, arguably, with the budget to then transition it over to a video game. So I'm expecting the cutscenes are going to look fantastic, and the voice acting, again, Troy Baker is arguably the best in the industry. So perfect combination for hopefully the beginning of a franchise. If we get a trilogy of Indiana Jones games out of this that outlive the movies, can't wait.
If this as well, Troy Baker's just made himself a lot of money because he's effectively become the next Indiana Jones. He's effectively the successor to Harrison Ford.
Yeah, in video games.
Yeah, I think it has to be looked that way, doesn't it? As a successor to the character, because even like I watched like the what's it called? The
Dial of Destiny, yeah.
Yeah, Dial of Destiny, yeah. So I watched that over Christmas just as like an easy thing to have on, and like as much as I love Harrison Ford, and like the de-aging's fantastic on him, even in like when he's been like current age Harrison Ford, there's like a stiffness to his movements and his
He's an old
whatever,
man.
which
He's
right,
a literal pensioner.
Like he should have retired, like like for his age. So like Indy needs to like become something else, and I think this is the best way for them to do it.
100%.
Really.
Now what we need is Project 007 from IO to get Pierce Brosnan's likeness, and we can all relive our best James Bond moments through Pierce Brosnan in that. Could you imagine? Because again, they have that same issue, don't they? Where Uncanny Valley, if they just make like a generic looking British white guy, how does that carry the story when everyone's like, it doesn't look like Daniel Craig, it doesn't look like Brosnan? We're going to end up with this Agent Underfire, weird looking guy who's not Bond.
I think it's easier though now to do that because with James Bond, because there's been so many actors.
Yeah.
You can kind of someone who looks the part as if he was going to be on film, and with motion cap and stuff and the way they do the 3D scans, rather than just having the kind of just the old fashioned way of having to build like a polygon based model. You could get it looking like that guy, and then all the kind of expressions and stuff come through him. So you could build very easily a new James Bond in video games that has never been, and be distinct because it's been done and done and done in the movies.
I will say, back to the Indiana Jones one, what I think made it stand out so close to Harrison Ford is in the trailer they nailed a lot of his mannerisms. There's a lot of like little subtle movements and like body quirks that Harrison Ford does. And they in the way he words things or the head tilts and stuff, they seem to have captured that really, really well. Which I'm guessing they've probably studied him extensively to get these like things nailed on right. So yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if he's been on set, like when Troy Baker's doing the acting. Like,
I don't think he gives two shits about this at all.
Oh god, no, he'd be like, "How much you paying me? Not enough."
Video game, yeah. But at the same time, Wolfenstein games are terrific fun. So, yeah, who better to make a game about killing Nazis than Wolfenstein team?
Yeah, right.
What about you, Rob? What's
Completely
your take on that? You see, obviously in the middle of me and Richie, not a diehard Indiana Jones fan, but you have seen them.
Yeah, I think I'm excited for it. Part because there's not, the calendar's looking a bit thin, so I think this benefits from, like having a quiet period, to a degree. I think I need to see more of the gameplay mechanics for it. Like if the whipping is just like, aha, whip, take his gun off him, and that's it. Like, yeah, a lot. It sounds weird, but a lot relies on like the whipping mechanic for me because that's like such like Indiana. Like I don't like the thing of Indiana Jones as well. Like he, I want like a good variety between like just shooting people and like getting into fist fights and stuff like that because that's like is such a big part of Indiana Jones as well. Like it's not just shooting Nazis, it's punching Nazis as well, right?
Of course,
like
yeah.
you need that in there. So if they do that well, and they do some of the, I guess, transitions between first and third person segments, I imagine it's be very hard to like recreate something like the tank like sequence from the first movie. Yeah, I can see it being quite hard to recreate like the spectacle of that in first person to some degrees. But
Have you
as
not
you
played
said,
GoldenEye, Rob? The tank missions in GoldenEye?
yeah, I actually revisited GoldenEye and got frustrated a couple of days ago and ditched it. But that's another story entirely. So yeah, I can see. I think it's going to be good, but it's just constantly under pressure from everything else that gets released, isn't it? That's the reality of the.
I think I
the
was
game
talking
now.
to Noah Discord saying like the difference could have been. Imagine if we sat here now saying, right, we saw the Indiana Jones game, but it didn't look like Harrison Ford, didn't sound like Harrison Ford, and it was wholly first person. I feel like we would be having a potentially very different conversation now. I think when it was happening live, I said to Richie, like getting his likeness and voice adds so much gravitas to the game essentially.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's going to be great.
I'm quietly optimistic about it. I have to say. Let's not let Indy hog all the discussion on the developer direct because we did get some other announcements as well. Let's touch on Avowed because I guess we've all had a bit of largely positive feelings from Indiana Jones, and like it wouldn't be a GamerGuild podcast if I didn't bring the mood down a little bit. So let's talk about Avowed for a little bit. It's not giving me anything new to get excited about from that developer like direct, to be honest. So we had like a pretty meaty amount of content for it. Some gameplay, some kind of, I guess, explanations of mechanics and things like that, and some kind of, I guess, like vague promises of how it's going to be a bit, different from your typical fantasy RPG. I don't know. There's something about it. Maybe it's like the way like the enemies are getting hit and not really reacting, and like to being a bit kind of boxy and a bit kind of Skyrim skin game or something like that. But I just can't get excited about this game in the way I should be for an Obsidian title. I don't know. I can't explain. Like, what were you two's kind of vibes from it?
I mean, I'll take it being on the fence, then we'll pass it to Richie to kind of pull it round a little bit. I've notoriously said on this show, like I'm not really a huge Bethesda fan. Like similar to Rob, I fell off Starfield. From what I've seen of like Fallout and Skyrim and stuff, like I'm sure I would have umpteen hours of fun, hundreds of hours of fun, in fact. But then there's just something about it which it feels dated to me. And I think what you said there about the fighting, Rob, when they were fighting the little reptiles in the trailer, it just looked like nothing was really happening. Like the block with the
like
shield that hit, and it
dunk,
was just like arms. And I know they went into like dual wand casting and dual flintlock shooting and stuff, but nothing stood out to me that made me think like, oh, this looks absolutely amazing. Like I must play this. And it's not just us. Like I listen to a lot of gaming podcasts, and the sentiment seems to be that across the board, where people are just saying like they enjoyed Outer Worlds, they enjoyed Fallout New Vegas, but then what is this doing that's different than any other generic first person game? Because like honestly, looking at it, I'd probably have more fun playing Ghostwire Tokyo like just aesthetically looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
And I know the gameplay, like some of the gameplay showed off, did look really smart and tight. And I think that's what brought Richie more into it. But as someone who's not notoriously a traditional fan of these games, it's not doing enough to pull me in. So then, yeah, if it's not doing that for you, I guess Richie, you're probably the most inclined to check this one out. You will because it's free, of course.
Yeah, so I was kind of very much in the same place as you, where it wasn't really doing much, but I always felt every time we saw it, it was just very much quick cuts. It never ever settled on any like action scene. So you can't always struggle to get a concept of like what makes this different. Why should I play this rather than go and play Skyrim for the millionth time, kind of thing? Apart from they've just turned the saturation up in the color palette, and I think I'm starting to see some differences in the gameplay. I'm not 100% sold on this. The fact that if it wasn't Game Pass, it still probably needs to do some work to get me more interested.
Mm-hmm.
It being Game Pass just definitely helps. And I don't know, I kind of get into what Chris is saying. Like, I think with the first person, like ZeniMax style games, from things like back from Skyrim to Avowed, and even things like Ghostwire, it feels like we're still looking for something to elevate that genre a bit.
Yeah, like what's the next step to
Yeah,
break
it's like
it out of its
when you
current
think of
form?
like first person shooters, you could just give someone a first person shooters. You could give someone who hasn't played Call of Duty since Modern Warfare, give them the most recent Call of Duty, and they'll be able to play it without even looking at the controls. It feels like it's a genre ready for elevation. From what I've seen of Avowed, it isn't it, but I think it will be a good exponent of the genre.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's a fair comment.
Yeah.
So, what more do you need to to tip you over the edge into like? 'Cause it's going to be a big download. Like I
Honestly,
rate Game Pass on like the cost is now the download time for me. So what more?
it comes down to what's around it, because we don't really know that much that's going to be at the end of the year. And we know this is fall or autumn this year, but we don't really know what else is around it. That's probably going to be the make or break for me. If it's quiet at the end of the year in autumn, I'll happily play Avowed. But if there's something else that I'd prefer to play, this might just get missed. I'm interested, but not fully sold. That's where it's not like I'm looking at like I'm looking at Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and go, that's the next big game I'm playing. Avowed isn't in that category. It's if there's time, I will happily play it and probably have a great time playing it, because it is a bit smaller than something like a Skyrim, which I do appreciate nowadays. But yeah,
Okay.
so I'm warmer than I was, but I'm not
Yeah.
red hot.
I guess it really comes down to what else lands in like that autumn time period, because they have like they've always been aiming for 2024 as a release, but they've narrowed it down to like an autumn window now. So
yeah, I suppose I've went from asking why should I care about Avowed to now going, okay, I kind of figure why I would enjoy Avowed, but I'm still looking at what's around.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's like you're open to the concept of ordering dessert as opposed to
yeah, not closed off to it. It's a weird one when
That's
I look at these.
This could be dessert, not your main meal.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a weird one. Look at these, because like I'm a massive fan of like the Far Cry games, and this just looks like Far Cry, but without the necessarily the guns as such. But,
Fantasy Far Cry.
Yeah, but it's like there is just something, I don't know. Again, if it's aesthetically, that's my weird aversion to like the Bethesda engine that they're running things in. Whether this is id's engine or whatever the other, because I guess Indiana Jones is that as well, but the IP is pulling me more in.
Yeah.
On that one, so it's such an odd.
That's where the IP is elevating the game.
Yeah,
and that's something I talked about in the live shows.
Yeah,
like,
but you were saying there about Call of Duty and like first-person shooters. Like I've got this itch to go play that RoboCop game, Rogue City, that came up before Christmas, and like that's just a first-person shooter, but because of the skin and the aesthetics to it, it's kind of pulling me in that direction. So
and that's not pitch yourself as a AAA temple for a platform either. So it gets a bit more of a pass.
I know. I wish that came a Game Pass. But again, we're in this weird place, aren't we? And Microsoft are as well, where because we are going to get all these a la carte in Game Pass, if there is something else that comes out at the time, like Richie said, my attention probably will be pulled elsewhere, because in my brain, I just think, well, I can wait. I can be patient. I've got it as part of Game Pass. It's not going anywhere. It's just there, and I don't have to pay any more money. So, I think, like Richie said, I'll check it out, and it might get its hooks in me, because... As Richie found out recently, I can test out different genres and I can absolutely fall in love with them. So if it comes out with good reviews, there's nothing to stop me. But yeah, I think to echo all of our thoughts, I think it just needs to do something extra. There's just something, and I keep going back to it, but it's because I can't see any characters. Like they showcased an interaction of like 2 NPCs talking, and then like, oh, he go kill his village elders or something, and then he came back and he had the option to give him an item, and his response, the said, would have been like varied depending on if you gave him the item or not, and he would have reacted accordingly. But because I'm just a faceless 2 pair of hands, I'm like, I don't care. So
And also, is that like trailer worthy in 2023, 2024? Sorry, is like.
Well, we should be clear though that Developer Direct isn't necessarily a trailer. These are more deep dives into mechanics rather than
True.
he's a 2-minute.
True, yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
That's
So I
fair.
think.
But
So I don't think it's trailer worthy, but I think it's Developer Direct worthy because that's why we're here.
I
To learn
don't
a
know,
bit
is it
more.
though? It's like developers like are supposed to like show off certain aspects of the game. It's like, oh look, 2 choices. And
Yeah.
like I don't know. Let's not. I'm not going to beat up on it too much because it could be great.
let's beat up on
Obsidian-
Senua instead.
What?
Let's beat up on
I'm
Senua's
not
saga
gonna. I'm
instead.
not. Okay, let's move on. Let's say very clearly, I'm in no way going to beat up on Senua Hellblade 2 because I don't know about you guys. Obviously, I wasn't present when you did the watch along, but Hellblade 2 is looking superb from my perspective. Like I'm getting super excited about it.
Have you
We
played the
got
first
quite.
one?
No, that's the insane thing. I need to go back and play the first one.
Yeah, same.
Before the 21st of May now, because
Mhm.
that's the release date that got announced for it. We got like a pretty meaty like look into the approach they're taking to this game. And if nothing else, it just kind of fueled my excitement for it. So I think the tagline they were going with was something like, what was it? It was like life-changing art with like game-changing tech or something along those lines. It was like very like kind of high art kind of goals and stuff like that. And just everything from the way they were approaching the sound, like the audio design and like development. Seems like it's focused on like using headphones to get like that kind of dual effect of things and going. And like the focus on the main theme of the games, which I having not played the first one, I think like leads heavily into like the mental health element. It just like it seems like they're doing a hell of a lot of things right, and it may just be a completely fantastic marketing ploy, but
It's
it's
the
worked on
attention
me.
to detail.
Yeah,
You
right.
can tell by listening to the developers talk the attention to detail and the passion they have for the project.
Mm-hmm. Like I remember very distinctly. There was like a behind the scenes of Metal Gear Solid 2 when it launched, which you got with the game disc, and like the clips from that have like really burned into my childhood memory, and it's like the team kind of acting out like the way the troops move in Metal Gear Solid 2 sequences and like the little kind of weird room cleanings they do, and like that attention to detail like really captured my interest, and I feel the same for Hellblade 2. So yeah, I'm super excited about it. Chris, how are you feeling about it?
Yeah, similar. I haven't played the first one. I've said before on the show, the reason I didn't play the first one is because as the first one came out, got all its plaudits, Xbox then acquired the studio, Ninja Theory. So the only reason I didn't play it back in the day on PlayStation is because I thought, well, if I enjoy the first one, at the time I didn't have an Xbox. I didn't do a podcast that hosted Xbox content. So I was very much not in that ecosystem at all. I don't know if Game Pass was even a thing. So I thought, well, I'm not going to play a game if the sequel comes out and I have to buy a whole console and buy another game and to play it. Whereas now Game Pass and the way my life's evolved is like actually it's perfect timing. So yeah, this comes out in May. Definitely going to check out the first one. Probably stream it actually because it's only about 6 hours long on the channel leading up to it. But it ticks all my boxes. It reminds me of kind of Plague Tale in a way as well because it's kind of like dark and grungy and dealing with like slightly not what would you say? No, I was going to say ethereal things there, but it's like all like wisps, isn't it? And like there is like a supernatural element. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it looks great. Like condensed story, really focused on the character. Like you said, Rob, the spatial, the sound awareness stuff they put into it sounds like very unique and fantastic. And yeah, I'm thoroughly looking forward to it. I'm just glad they put a damn date on it because I think the risk this game has had is I feel like we've seen it 100 times now. And it's getting to that point
what is
where
it like 5 years now? Was it 2019 it got
Yeah, it got an actual reveal, and then it's been at Game Awards. It's been at pretty much every Jeff Keighley thing. And then at Game Awards this past year, they had like the live band come out and play the drums with the fire, but then still didn't go as a date. And it was like, God, it's just getting to like almost like a saturation point now where I was like, right, just shit or get off the pot because we're waiting too long. And now we've got it, and it's arguably like just around the corner, and there's nothing between that and now. This before Indiana Jones is like the next big thing on my radar. So looking forward to going back playing the first one. They've said again it's not going to be like ridiculously long in comparison. I think what's been touted is like maybe 8 to 10 hours. So if I think the original's about 6 to 7, this could be the same. And I'm glad that they don't have to. The studio, after being acquired by Microsoft, haven't had to like change their artistic vision and go like, oh, it needs to be 20 hours long. It needs to be this. It's like, no. If it tells its story, if it gets its point across, it should be good.
You're touching on kind of where my thoughts with this is, where I think a lot of Xbox first party games are very good. They do have a bit of feel like we're producing a game. This feels like the team are trying to create a piece of art, and they're not compromising the vision. They're using the technology available, seemingly, to they have this seem to have this clear idea of what this game should be, then finding the technology to fit that rather than just going, okay, here's an engine, we'll start building the game, start filling assets. It does feel very much like this is a piece of art.
Yeah.
And it's for the first time in a while I'm looking at an Xbox first party title that if you slapped PlayStation Studios on it, you wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
Like, I think for a narrative driven action game, this is the first time I can remember in ages that Xbox are really stepping into the ring with Sony.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
Could literally, this could be Last of Us level of like game in terms of how it's revealed. I think it's looking like it is. That's the way this game is going very much.
Yeah.
Now, one important element of it, which I just want to touch on, obviously we're going to play it on Game Pass, so it's free as we refer to these titles as. But if you were to buy it like on retail, $50. So yes, it's a short title, but I feel like the cost they're not putting the typical $70-$80.
It's quality rather than quantity, I think, with this game.
Yeah, and I think it's priced fairly as well.
Yeah.
Actually, as an aside, which feeds into one of our other stories there in the show, Rob, this game not getting a physical release.
No.
Which I've seen a lot of people not kick off, but show concern that as an Xbox first-party title not to have a physical release. That's quite, I guess, concerning if you have a disc version of the console or you live in a poor internet area. Like, it's okay. I obviously, Alan Wake did it before Christmas with Alan Wake 2. And that got some shit, but they said it was required to keep the cost down. But now first party are doing it, and the story we're going to get to later on is like, we are really pushing towards like an all digital world. So
absolutely
cheaper cost, great being digital, and you're saving £20, $20, but there is that risk of like, if Xbox aren't even committing for like arguably their biggest game of the year potentially, not having a physical release, it's a bit worrying as a collector.
No limited editions as well. I assume that implies there's no steel tins or
there'll be like a deluxe special edition, or they might do early access for all we know, like they did with Starfield.
Yeah, maybe
they might have like a third party partnership later down the line with like some like limited run games.
But for a first party game, like, could you imagine PlayStation? The Last of Us Part 3 digital only.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I think that this is the way the industry is going. I think in like 10 years' time, like physical games might be just done. Like, we've already seen both Sony and Microsoft release completely digital-only consoles this generation. I think it's clear that's the way it's going to go. And yeah, I think I do prefer physical releases. The main reason I prefer physical releases is if you don't want to play a game day and date, a lot of like warehouses, big retailers, they'll do price slashes when they're like the game's not selling anymore, like 6 months down the line, and you can save like sometimes 20-30 quid on the game if you don't play a day and date. So you can actually, if you don't need to play a day and date, you can get an absolute bargain. It's why I definitely went for the disc version of PS5, even though it's more money. I know for a fact I will make my money back and more over the lifespan of the console.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Two side stories to that. Funnily enough, I think Game Pass plays a huge part in that decision, because realistically, if they're going to sell, or people are going to play most of their copies of Game Pass players, like, I ain't buying it physically. None of us are buying it physically. Nope. So that's 3 discs that don't need printing right there. But then on the flip side, did you guys see the article that said PlayStation 4 sold more physical copies than Xbox did in 2023. And that's because everyone's on Game Pass.
Insane.
So everyone who's got a PS4 is out there still buying the discs. But then on Game Pass, they're not. But that's such an odd statistic because it makes the PS4 look like it's outselling Xbox. It's like, it's not. But software-wise,
you can't do them
you can't.
direct
anymore,
comparisons anymore. Like,
but it goes back to saying, like, just Game Pass is just totally, like, messing with the equilibrium of sales and chart numbers. And we know Nintendo don't record on digital sales. So, like, all the stats for, like, last year's, like, top-selling games, like Super Mario Wonder and stuff's up there in 5th and stuff, and Zelda's up there, I think, at 2nd. But that's not counting digital sales as well, which you've got to imagine Nintendo sell a shed ton of digital too. So everything can't be trusted. Like, your data's all skew with all over the place.
Yeah.
But
We're
it's a
definitely in
shame.
a transition period, aren't we?
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, regardless, I think we're all very, very much on the Hellblade wagon for the next few months. I guess like the only thing to close on for that is we didn't see gameplay, but I feel like this is more a symptom of, you know, it's going to be an iteration on the first game's gameplay, and fans of the series, you know, they know what to expect, probably less so than we do as newer entrants, I guess. But I imagine we'll see that kind of resolved in the next couple of months in the run up. Yeah. Anything else to add on Hellblade before we jump on to, I guess, the next two titles?
Nope, just wait for Hellblade 1 in.
Sounds good.
Might play that next, actually.
Hmm?
Might play Hellblade 1 next because I'm between games at the moment.
Yeah, that'll be a good shout. Last week we all kind of speculated on what might be a surprise announcement or like a stealth drop for the showcase, and we got our answer this week, and it's a game, Visions of Mana, a Square Enix kind of project. Now, I'm going to be honest, this title does absolutely nothing for me. From what I gather, it's like an offshoot of a Final Fantasy kind of side project. I guess Richie is the closest to the franchise. Is there anything that is like, what's this giving you? Like,
not the deep dive has given me nothing that I didn't already have, because I think this would be different if this was the first reveal of the game, but we've seen it a couple of times already before now. I think did we even talk about it last week? Like, we've talked about it recently on the podcast. But my views on it hasn't changed. I think the Mana series is a series as an RPG fan that I've been aware of for a while, but I haven't played any of them. So I think I'd almost like to go back and play the earlier ones first. So I'm glad this is here. I like the fact it's actually at the Direct, because it's showing that strengthening partnership between Xbox and Japanese developers, in this case Square Enix, which is something they've been criticized for in the past, and they're definitely strengthening with the links now with Sega and Square Enix getting now involved. It might actually squash some of the rumors that Square Enix might eventually be bought by PlayStation with this sort of thing happening as well. But I don't really have much more to add on the game. I think if you're into the Mana games, like, you're probably happy this is coming out, and let us know in the comments like why we should play this, because I don't have that much knowledge about the series.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And Chris, I'm guessing this is a pass by for yourself.
Yeah, as much as I'm now all about the JRPGs with Sea of Stars Platinum under my belt now, it is one of those where I look at it and just think, like, it's the 17th entry in the series. It's so Japanese. It's like, it's beyond me. I'm very surprised it wasn't a Game Pass confirmation. It seems like everything we got shown was like, coming to Game Pass. And like Richie said, I think it definitely strengthens the ties with Square Enix. But I thought it would have been a Game Pass announcement, so I wouldn't be surprised if later on in the year we maybe see some of the older titles come across to kind of pad out the Game Pass library in anticipation for this game launching. But again, it was a nice surprise. I think the presentation did a good job at like teasing us, and now we know the cadence to the Hi-Fi Rush stealth drop. So they're probably going to tease something that you're not expecting, but it's not necessarily going to be a game day and date like now. Yeah. So it was nice to see. But yeah, certainly one that I'll probably... a lot of planets would have to align, I think, for me to check this one out.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. Like, maybe add a couple more planets, because I'm nowhere near the JRPG genre at the moment. The final title just to touch on for the showcase was our History Untold. It kind of got confirmation that it's landing this autumn. It's from Oxide Games, who were like the founding members of Fireaxis, who obviously have a very rich pedigree in the grand strategy Civ type games. I'm probably going to take the most on this one because it's kind of my bag on the Civilization series. Again, it's not doing enough for me to play it. It was kind of like, I don't know about you guys, but throughout their showcase, it almost like bordered on a bit of comedy where they were saying they're almost like trying to heavily imply this isn't a Civilization clone by highlighting features which were present in every single Civilization game. And it got to the point where it's like, oh, you can go like against the grain of history and look, we've got mechs, and it's like, well, Civilization has like the big killer death robot, and it's like they really kind of try to run into this like alternative history theme, but it's like in every Civ game I play, like I don't know what branch of history where like Queen Victoria took over the entire like planet with
This
giant
one?
robots. But like that, no, with giant robots, Richie, I was coming to.
Okay.
So, like,
Don't you remember the giant robots
Yeah.
of the Victorian era?
yeah, but I don't. Yeah, I don't know what like I don't know. It just doesn't. There's no reason for me not to play Civ apart from the fact that Civ's an older game. Richie, you kind of dive into Civ every now and again. What are your thoughts?
Where you're more of a bit. I don't know if you describe yourself as hardcore, but comparatively to me, where I will probably once maybe a year or every other year, I'll jump in and kind of play one game of Civ over the span of a week and then move on.
I mean,
That's just how I've always dabbled.
My hardcoreness for these games is I will open up an Excel spreadsheet and put sums in to calculate the most efficient starting points for a
Okay,
Civ
so
game.
you're straight up. You are full hardcore then.
Hardcore
like-
or insane? There's a
Probably
fine line.
hardcore with like a sprinkle of tism,
Yeah.
maybe. I don't know, right? But, like,
Well, I think you've even extended enthusiast for then. If you have to build a spreadsheet, you went past enthusiast when you're min-maxing your game in Civ.
yeah,
And where I'm more like, I might, if I'm feeling a bit experimental, set the AI difficulty to normal, not easy. I'm interested in this game, but for the exact same reasons I'm interested in Civ. But I've never felt. I think the last Civ I bought was Civ 5, and I'm happy because I play it very infrequently. I'm always happy to just go back to Civ 5 because it still holds up.
yeah.
So this could be the replacement to Civ 5 for me, but it's not something I'm going to be playing to the death of. But it being on Game Pass means cool. I have it. So that's why I'm interested, because maybe this is the time for me to finally put Civ 5 to bed, and now maybe Ara takes its place without me having to spend an extra penny.
But here's the thing: it's on Game Pass next to Civ 6 and Humankind as well. Like, it probably suffers a bit for that, right?
It does potentially, but I think Civ does need competition in the space, and I'm not sure Unfortunately, I'm not sure Humankind's really give it that.
We tried our best.
We tried it. I enjoyed Humankind a bit. On back on those steady days, but
I'm over it, to be honest. Like, the entire concept of it, it's done for me.
yeah. But I do think like any game shouldn't have an entire genre to itself, because that competition can be good. So I think if Ara being a first party Xbox title, coming to PC Game Pass, I think has a very solid chance of kind of getting some Civ players over there, and it just really kind of igniting the genre a bit.
No, very well put. Like, there does need to be multiple.
That's my hope.
There need to be like multiple entrants in any genre to innovate, right? Or it just gets stale.
Yeah.
So like that was the main thrust of the dev showcase. Chris, if you could sum up in a sentence or two how you feel that's strengthened kind of, I guess, Microsoft's offering for this year. Like, are you more excited about what's on the table for Xbox? Are you kind of still a bit needs more? Like, how do you think this like kind of landed for Microsoft as a whole?
Yeah, I think the developer direct, it was fantastic. I think presentation wise, it did what it needed to. I think artistically, it was very, very well laid out. I think me and Richie were talking about the whole like chalkboard scribbles and stuff just flows
Look cool.
perfectly, jumping between studios, teasing a little bit. I think it was like a external document got added. Even at the end when they kind of rounded up, they opened like an MP4 video file to play the trailer at the end for the outro, and it was just all very well done, very tidy, very neat. Didn't overpromise, delivered on pretty much a bit of insight. It had the pop off in like the Indiana Jones content. We got a couple of dates for everything, and to echo last year's developer direct, everything we saw last year came out last year. So hopefully the cadence of everything we saw this year's comes out this year. That's a great kind of systematic way, I think, for Xbox to set their expectations. And yeah, I thoroughly loved it. I look forward to next January's and seeing what 2025 has in store as well. I think PlayStation should definitely take note, because the state of play is starting to begin to become just a faceless voice, throwing trailers at us. Some are crap, some are unnecessary, some of their clearly to pay just some bills for third-party relationships. Whereas it was refreshing, Richie, it wasn't to finish this and just not have one advert in the whole damn thing. No filler. It was just all quality games shown off by passionate developers with dates. Done and dusted. Yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, building on that, I felt with it being like, okay, we've basically, for in an hour, we've got 5 games to cover. Every game really got their chance to kind of shine, have a bit more deep dive in it. Where as much as I love things like Game Awards and like E3 and things like that, when you get a million trailers back to back, sometimes a lot of things get just lost in the mix in your brain. It just all turns into like soup in your mind. It's like, and you hear about games and go, did we cover that? Having a bit more okay, we're going to let these games breathe, but nothing also overstayed its welcome. I think they absolutely nailed this kind of showcase. The format, the length, what they were talking about with the individual games is like, just hand it over the developers and go, you got 10, 15 minutes to tell people why they should be interested in your game. Go. If you want to show behind the scenes stuff, show behind the scenes stuff. If you want to focus on gameplay, if you want to introduce members of staff, if you want to see someone in a little scooter driving around the office, whatever, go for it.
Yeah, I completely concur. I think they've really nailed it this year. And if this is a sign of the standard which Xbox is kind of putting out for this year, then it all bodes very, very
And the
well.
games, I think, were of the right standards as well.
Yeah, like fair enough, like we might have individual taste differences and
But that's it. It's a taste difference rather than a quality difference. What I'm looking at.
That's right. Yeah, I think that's the most important thing. So yeah, very good start of the year. Well done, Microsoft. Keep going. Moving kind of neatly on to the rest of kind of what Microsoft Xbox have in store for us.
X-Pass.
We got the outline of what titles we can expect from Game Pass over like the rest of January and also moving into February slightly as well. I don't know. It's not setting the world on fire this month, I don't think. For a quick rundown of the main titles, this will be going out on the 22nd, so there'll be a few you've already dropped, but those are Those Who Remain, Turnip Boy Rob the Bank,
What a name for a game.
F1 23, and Pal World will all be with you and available by the time you're listening to this. Pal World's probably a big one to talk about in a second. But for the rest of the month, you've also got Go Mecha Ball on the 25th. No idea what the hell that is. Rotato, which I assume is a pun on potato.
Overwhelmingly positive on Steam. 10 out of 10, rated 10 out of 10 with 66 and that. Yeah, with almost 67,000 reviews.
I can't tell if you're joking or not, Richard.
I'm not joking in the slightest, Rob. Like, I've just looked at the numbers.
All right, well, good. Yeah, go check out Potato on the
Brotato, right? Like potato.
Potato, yeah.
Not potato.
Potato. You say brotato, I say brotato.
On the 2nd of February, we have Persona 3 Reload. Richie, one for you, I imagine. And then 6th of February, a new card? A new shit? A game coming out on the 6th of February.
Yeah.
Someone rip me apart in the comments for the pronunciation of that and my ignorance. I'm very sorry. Anything to pick out from there for you guys? Obviously, Richie, I feel like Persona 3.
I'll cover Persona 3 very, very briefly because we've talked about it loads of times. And yeah, I'm very much want to play this game. My only issue with this game, and I love the fact it's coming to Game Pass, is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And there's no way I'm finishing Persona 3 Reload in time for that game. So although Final Fantasy is later in the month, the cadence I play games, like it's going to have to wait, unfortunately. I begrudgingly acknowledge that to myself. Like I can't fit fit this game in before, and I want to play Final Fantasy VII Rebirth immediately as soon as I possibly can.
That's fair.
So this Persona 3 might be the game I play after. And
Cool.
it's only a few weeks before Rebirth. So this is a definite play for me.
Okay.
But I don't know when. Because I actually did a cover of the remasters of both Persona 3 Portable and Persona 4 Golden on the chat. They're on the channel. You can go watch them. And it was Persona 3 I was leaning more towards of the two of them. And then not long after Reload got announced, it's like, well, I'm not going to play the old version, which for 3, while it was narratively more, I found more interesting than 4. I thought it was like, it did feel very dated. Like, almost like kind of point and click kind of style at times. It's like, and then announced Reload. It's like, I'll wait for Reload to experience it at its best.
Okay.
But,
Yeah, I think that's fair
yeah.
enough. Obviously, you've got commitments in a Persona game. It's no small one on top of that as well.
Yeah, I'm expecting over 100 hours.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. I guess the one that most people are talking about from this list is Pal World, and I will admit, like this game just completely passed me by. As something as far as like, I didn't even give it the time of day, to be honest. But the team took to social media and announced that it's sold as well, not players or anything. It's sold 1 million copies. I think like a couple of hours after its like early access launch. So for anybody who like me has passed this title by, it's a very bizarre combination of Pokemon creature capture and survival, heavy armament, gunning down things. I've never used that sentence before in my life, and I don't think I'll use it again.
I describe it as what if Pokemon meets Fortnite? Because I think it's got a lot of the mechanics of Fortnite. Well, if the more survival version of Fortnite, and it's got the art style of it, but then it's basically like almost like a Pokemon game at times. And I actually should apologize because I cut the show from the show last week for like time, and it turns out that was probably a mistake.
I think
This should have been on the thumbnail.
This is going to be one of those that's I think it's going to like blow up unprecedentedly because people have been waiting for like a 3D Pokemon game with like decent graphics for so long, and then the team behind Palwell just rock up and go, you know what, we're going to do that, but we're also going to give you AK-47s, rocket launchers, and the ability to craft a base to make armies of these things.
It's and like the Ark kind of mechanics.
Yeah, and it's so blatantly ripping off Pokemon characters. Like some of them are almost like one for one. Literally just switch out the color palette. So you've got like Pokemon that it's just instead of them being a fire type, they're a grass type instead. But this time you can shoot them with a pistol or throw a grenade at them.
I think that's hard. I don't think we should criticize them too much for that because with how many Pokemon there is, it's almost impossible to do like a creature-based game without almost accidentally coming close.
Yeah,
I mean, they're definitely Nintendo's lawyers are definitely going to be looking somewhat at this.
If the guys who made this game were inspired strongly by Pokemon and weren't big Pokemon fans, I'd be very surprised because everyone should be. But
in terms of the actual game, like obviously coming to Game Pass, it gets that little boost already. But then 1 million sold. I think it's going to be one that this is going to be one that streamers pick up on. It's also got big Monster Hunter World vibes where you're going out there, you're capturing them, but I think because you've got these big boss fights where you're peppering them with bullets and there's numbers pinging off them all over, it's got almost that like addictive nature.
I really hope they've got good lawyers because the more I watch like some of the footage of it, like if I told you this was just a game mode within Fortnite, you would totally believe me. Like,
I'd have said if you told me it was the new Pokemon game, I'd believe you as well. Like if you took the gun clips out and just showed them running across like luscious environments,
that's what I mean,
or flowing through the sea on the back of something that literally straight just looks like a Gyarados.
Yeah, it does feel a bit you're very much dancing around, or dancing on the line with two massive corporations here who might be quite protective of their IP.
I'm gonna go check it out now, though. If I'm honest, like it looks like it's.
I almost feel like this is a stream, like event, isn't it? But I think it's definitely one I'm like that caught my attention more so than anything. Besides from that, it's a January drop of Game Pass. I wasn't expecting miracles. There's something there for F1 fans if you are of that persuasion. But I think we'll move swiftly on to talk about the next story, which is someone's hooked onto the concept of a Far Cry spin-off game featuring lots of lasers, from what I can tell. It's known as Captain Laserhawk Niji Warrior, which has only been picked up because it's been rated by the PEGI classification board.
Peggy
Ubisoft
12.
Ubisoft has said nothing about this game and have actively declined to add any context to the news that dropped. Now, I'm out of the Far Cry ecosystem, and from what I understand, the Captain Laserhawk was a spin-off Netflix show. If I
It hasn't came out yet.
so. Okay, so it is coming out.
It's
Okay.
coming out, yeah. I'm guessing they're going to tie it in with whatever this
Okay.
ends up being.
Okay, but yeah, this is like the game tying. This is the game tying of a game spin-off Netflix.
So Blood
show.
Dragon. Yeah, Far Cry Blood Dragon is a spin-off of Far Cry 3.
Mm-hmm.
So Captain Laserhawk is a TV show spin-off of Blood Dragon, and this is a spin-off of Captain Laserhawk, seemingly.
Yeah.
There's layers.
Yeah, I mean, the main protagonist in that was called Rex Power Colt, was his name, and he was voiced by Reese from the original Terminator movie, and it was very much an ode to 80s action, but with that neon aesthetic. And like Blood Dragon's phenomenally fun, but Ubisoft have done a typical Ubisoft where the games that do great, they just sit on and do nothing with for a decade. Looking at you, Black Flag, where they could have really probably got 2 or 3 entries out of this IP by now. That would have been fantastic. And instead we get a weird zany spin-off Netflix thing. But we know Far Cry 6 is now nearly 2 years in the rearview mirror. We know they like to do an interstitial thing based on usually the same map with a reskin. We played the Stranger Things one, Richie, and it was really fun. Like reskinning it the upside down with those characters.
I've never watched Stranger Things, and I really enjoyed it.
So I think taking the Far Cry 6 map, whack some Blood Dragon skin over it, tie it in with a Netflix series. They may be hoping for that Witcher 3 boost that it gets every time a new season launches. But overall, I think we're probably overdue. And let's face it, if we've got a big Assassin's Creed game this year, Ubisoft also like to cannibalize the sales by dropping another big title. So I could see this game dropping probably within a week of Assassin's Creed Red.
Yeah,
but
I mean, something to do.
If it's anything close to Blood Dragon, I'm there for it. Not the TV
they'll
show,
drop
but
this.
the game.
It's like I think they completely killed Immortals Phoenix Rising the other year, didn't they? Where it's like, oh, we're going to drop that base right within like a week or two of Assassin's Creed Valhalla, so no one buys and goes,
And
well,
Watch
it didn't
Dogs.
sell well. And Watch Dogs, yeah, well, it didn't sell well, so let's cancel. It's like, no, you just bad. You just didn't think about how to release a game.
Business.
But yeah.
Business. Let's move on to business actually, because Take-Two are doing some big corporate business moves by initially entering a trademark dispute with Remedy. Now, the context behind this is that Remedy revealed a new kind of logo iteration a while back now. Essentially, I think it started with it was like a bullet hole R, which kind of hooked into like the Max Payne like past of the studio, which like largely it's moved on from now. So they felt, okay, we need to unveil a new logo. It follows the trends of all logos at the moment, which is like pretty unremarkable, sans serif, like minimalistic flat logo thing. Rockstar and Take-Two did not like this because apparently if you're incredulous enough to use an R in your logo, then you're basically just copying Rockstar. Now, I know Rockstar is like a household name in gaming, right? But I don't feel like you can copyright a letter.
So let's break down these two logos. The Rockstar logo is an orange square with the R in italics with a star. The Remedy logo is just white on black, and it looks like they're going for a kind of something resembling kind of Alan Wake Control with the kind of slightly stylization, kind of offset of the R. They look nothing alike.
Yeah.
Apart from they use a very common letter in the alphabet.
Yeah.
And
let's be honest, there's like a
But-
3% chance you're going to use that letter anyway by random if you were to do like a random logo.
I use that letter every single day.
It's
Yeah, right.
It's so mad, isn't it? Like, obviously, companies like you said, Rob, they have to kind of re-go with the times with the logos. It's very much a ripple effect from things like the App Store. So if you remember when like the iPhone originally launched, everyone had like these 3D, almost like 90s inspired, like colorful, bright
Yeah.
logos, and then everyone, as you said, stripped it back to being minimalistic, plain
Very
letter,
clean.
and usually it's like white on black background or something, and then you can change it for like Pride Month or Halloween or Christmas or whatever it is. And yeah, it's just another letter R, slightly different. The bigger irony of all this is Remedy are fucking working for Rockstar, making Max Payne remakes right now. So they're currently trying to sue a company they're in business with. That's like you going to Richie and suing him for using R.
Why are some corporate types just utter dickheads? That's all this is. It's absolutely pointless attempted cash grab. It's like, honestly,
like,
if I was Remedy, I'd be that pissed off. I'd be going, we're stopping all work on Max Payne until Rockstar give us a public apology on this shit. Like, because it's just so petty. It's pointless, petty, and just like, grow the fuck up.
Like the wording that was used in the claim, or like the document, was there exists a likelihood of confusion on the part of the public, which
no, there doesn't.
Like, I
because
know,
Remedy's logo says Remedy under it.
Yeah, I mean, like, I know when you consider that, like, the average person, if you take the average person, then like half of all people are dumber than that. Yeah, I get that argument, like, I really do, but like,
no, I don't.
It's really selling down like the the general vibe.
It's like, imagine how many accidents you would have to make to see the Remedy logo somehow click onto like the Alan Wake 2 homepage and then think you're buying Grand Theft Auto. Like, is that what, like, there's no pathway in which you go through several hoops without realizing you've got the wrong thing. Like, even like, that's totally on you.
It's some corporate type in a stuffy shirt and suit and sat in an office as for, oh, they've released a new logo. We might be able to get a couple of quid out of this. Let's get the lawyers on board.
You know what they should probably be more concerned with? Going after the Rockstar energy drink, because they literally use the same name. Like, in a similar vein of GTA games have energy drinks within them.
But even the word Rockstar, you can't. It will be difficult to trademark when it's a completely different marketplace, because just it's a phrase that's been used since rock music existed. So someone can come in much later and claim that. It's just not how the world works.
Kroger's nervous about Rockstar coming for him soon.
Rockstar, Take-Two, if you want to make more money, just make better games. You're going to print money with Grand Theft Auto 6, so why are you giving a shit about this?
So
you're just pissing off your partners.
To add that, I guess, a little closure to this story is there has been an update since the original story came out, just saying that Remedy has responded to the trademark dispute, stating that it was resolved amicably last year. So there's nothing to see here. There was a discussion between our teams. It was resolved late last year. Unfortunately, it took a little longer to complete due to some holiday scheduling. The legal filing was simply an initial formality, and Remedy and Take-Two continue to work together in partnership. But like,
it smacks of a bit of PR rescue there.
Remedy picked up the phone and went, "What the fuck?"
And they went, "Oh, we didn't realize we were like best mates working on multiple projects together." Like, sorry.
Yeah.
This is a bit of an odd one, but like,
in a world,
like, this, like, it needs to stop this type of shit. Well, we talked about a couple of months ago? There's something similar came out. I can't remember what it was.
Oh, there's always corporate bullshit going on.
Yeah. Well, remember the reason we referenced it there, but Immortals Phoenix Rising was originally called Gods and Monsters, and the reason that Ubisoft trying to change the name is because Monster Energy Drink said that they weren't allowed to use that in the title. So it's just a whole thing, but it just goes back to that irony, doesn't it? Of like, how can we live in the same weekend where Palworld gets away with the Pokemon rip-off stuff, but then simply using the letter R is apparently frowned upon?
So here's a crazy thing as well. So like, two people who probably came dangerously close to getting sued by Rockstar as well. The Rocksteady crew, who just added a couple of letters and then made a new word. How
the audacity!
Yeah, incredulity. They've obviously the co-founders from Rocksteady have been, I guess, formally attached to their new kind of AAA studio, 100 Star Games. So it's got
a star in the name, Rob. They're going to get sued.
Exactly right. They're going to get sued. It's just a matter of time.
The star's orange as well in the logo.
Again, another copyright claim. But we've known about this studio for a while. It's a London-based studio. Again, formed out of, I guess, I'm not going to say ashes of Rocksteady, but definitely the smouldering remains of Rockstar maybe. Yeah, so London-based 100 Star Games. They've been around, but like I guess it's finally official knowledge that like the co-founders of Rocksteady are behind it. We don't really have any kind of concrete information on what's to come from those guys. I don't believe.
No, I think Kotaku were the only ones who actually picked up on this, as they realised the two studio heads' names were on like some kind of legal company filing document in the UK. So it wasn't. It's not even like official. Like they've not released a press statement or anything yet. This is just their names coincidentally showing up on the name of a new game studio. My suspicion is that these two folks, the two heads who founded Rocksteady, have left imminently before the launch of Suicide Squad. And I think there's like a weird legal thing where maybe if you leave a company, you're not allowed to go and create another company in the same marketplace.
Yeah.
Until after the product you've been working on for 8 years is released, because you almost have insider trading knowledge of like what Suicide Squad is.
They might not have left yet.
Oh,
it
they,
might
they
be
have.
a plan.
That was officially
they've
gone.
left now.
They made this. It was
right.
like some point early last year. But which again, I think we said at the time when we covered it, like is that a ringing indictment of the state of Suicide Squad, that they worked on it for 7 years, then left before launch? Because that means all their bonuses and stuff just throw out the window.
Fair, WB doesn't, when it comes to games, they don't seem to have a clue where they stand, because they keep changing their mind whether they want to sell the games division, keep it the games division. They're pushing hard at games as a service, but then the one game they've had in recent years that's actually done well was Hogwarts Legacy, which isn't games as a service, but now they're talking about the next Harry Potter game being games as a service. They just feel like completely all over the place. And if you're a game developer, like running a studio with like the reputation of Rocksteady, and you're just like, we just want our parent company to have their shit together so we can make the best games possible. This might just be a case of, should we just go somewhere else?
Yeah.
Like, we can't take Rocksteady, but if we just leave and start again, it might be them kind of vibes.
I think all the talent from Rocksteady who wanted to work on a single player narrative game, aka a follow up to Arkham Knight, will jump ship to go with these guys. I think they'll get their pay for Suicide Squad, whatever it may be, and then they'll cook the cord, start fresh without that tinge on them almost.
Yeah. Agreed.
But,
yeah. So best of luck to those guys. Just get your name out there a bit more officially, I guess.
And don't take 9 years to get the whatever it is out, because we'd like to see it something sooner. Suicide Squad less than 2 months, less than 2 weeks away.
Oh no, yeah, like I've got to finish all my games so I can start playing Suicide Squad when it drops. Whatever. Moving swiftly on. Very, very quick story before we jump into the last meaty story of the show. Had a PlayStation continuing their foray into TV film in a bigger way. A Until Dawn movie has been announced, and it's got a pretty good director attached to it. So we don't know when it's going to come out or to what degree of pre-production the movie is in. But it's got, let me grab his name, David Sandberg, who was behind the first Shazam and also Lights Out, which was like a really kind of movie I rated. So yeah, like obviously it's got some good people attached to it already, and also the added benefit of not having to you can consume Until Dawn content and not stress every like 2 seconds that you're gonna inadvertently get a character killed is a big bonus for me.
Or 3, Richie.
Yeah.
Did you fell prey to the Wendigo, didn't you?
I got a bit over intelligent for the game. I kept trying to second guess what the game was trying.
Over intelligent.
No, I was doing
you were too smart.
I was too smart for it. I was doing the thing where I was second guess when it would look like, oh, there's an obvious trap there. I just went, but that's what the game wants me to think. So I walk into the trap, and no, it's a trap.
I've never heard someone as an
fucked
excuse say, "Oh, I'm terrible at this game because I'm too smart."
Yeah,
It's the glasses increase my intelligence level.
That's something else, Richie.
Yeah, I think as far as like the game goes, it's obviously like a beloved PlayStation classic. It'll be 10 years next year as well, a decade old already, which is crazy. And we know Supermassive have since moved on to like The Quarry and the Dark Pictures anthology and such. I think PlayStation own the rights to that IP, so it's probably why we've not seen a follow up yet. But in terms of the storyline, it's pretty much paint by numbers horror, but it's got a good enough, I think, story to like condense it down. I think with a decent director, it could be one that even without any association to PlayStation Studios, it would probably just do well coming out around Halloween season. I'm curious to know what they do with it, because if you look at the cast list of Until Dawn, the list of like actors in it, at the time, obviously fairly smaller, lesser known ones, but since then, like Rami Malek especially, and Hayden Panettiere, Chocolat, whatever she's called, it'll go on to that. Like, you could get them back, ditch the teen idea. Obviously, they're all teenagers, and obviously, as real people, they're like another decade older now. But if you just put it as like people and got those actors back who know the characters through and through, they've already got the history with it, and they're already like they're famous names now. That could just keep it like some level of consistency, or they could just go brand new and just take the IP and try and make a horror franchise out of it.
They could work at like, did you ever watch It Part 2? When like the kids are like growing up and they have to go back to the town.
Yeah.
Could it be something like that? Would be quite interesting.
I'm not sure how that would work, depending on the game. I mean, I got a couple characters killed, so
you'd have to go with like the best ending, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
I think,
or the worst. I don't know.
That's why
you'd have to find
some new people.
I think
lost half of them.
I think you're probably better off just taking the kind of general structure and story of the game and just adapting that concept to something fresh.
Wendigos.
Yeah.
Interesting
cool idea though.
Yeah. Now I want to move on to probably like the closer story that we're going to discuss a little bit more. And for me, this is quite a big one. So the news is that Game have now officially announced that they'll be kind of sunsetting their trading kind of like old game program, which I think, especially for people our age, has been like a mainstay of physical gaming for a long time now. Especially when like you were younger and you didn't have the money to constantly like
that
buying
bargain
games
bin. That bargain bin.
Yeah, it was like kind of trading all your old stuff, get some new to you games, and like essentially like the entire industry ran off the back of pre-owned game sales for a long time. So yeah, like Game have announced that they're moving away from that model and just essentially just ditching it after next month, which is really sad, because then it only leaves like the old stock to kind of run through, and then that's it really. So for people in the UK, it really leaves it only open to like the CEX, which even CEX is kind of, if you go in, I don't know if you've like ever been in one recently, but their stock's really dwindling as well, and it all just kind of screams to me of this move towards a digital only like ecosystem. And yeah, I mean, Chris, I know you're super heavy on the physical media, and you like to collect and you like to retain and stuff. Like, what does this mean for you? I mean, you buy lots of old games as well. Like, where would you get your PS2 titles from?
I mean, I usually get them, to be fair, from eBay, because they just have like a wider stock. It's just individuals selling them. It's been a long time since I've actually bought a secondhand like physical game from this, but for me, it's more just the high street presence, because I'm hold my hand up, and I've said many times, like, I don't think Game, which we should clarify for anyone not in the UK, is our like GameStop. It's electronics boutique, EP Games, whatever you want to call it, EB Games. It's a shame. Reading more into it, it looks like a lot of it comes down to just the unfortunate collapse of the retail high street presence, and I think the Fraser Group, who were bought out by Mike Ashley and his team, that we've seen a lot of games transition into outlets within other outlets. So it's now within Sports Direct units, and by the looks of reading this, it says it's because the trading system is a different internal IT setup than what the Sports Direct stores are, and they're struggling with, I'd imagine, like the physical quantity of having just like storage space for all this stuff.
Yeah,
and amongst all the other stuff they sell.
When's the last time you actually went? Have you been into like a game section of Sports Direct?
I've briefly walked through it and thought, this is so out of place. It's unbelievable.
It's so depressing.
Yeah.
It's like,
I don't even know how you fit one in, because Sports Direct is so much crammed in that makes it very difficult to even shop there anyway.
It's more the same.
It's just a couple of shelves edged, like the one near us, Richie, it's a couple of shelves edged off into the corner of the unit, like near the football boot section, out the way on the top floor, and there's like one till and it's just not. It's not a game shop at all. It's just it's
Do
a
you think
poor
it's
excuse.
Do you think this is just a kind of sign of the times more rather than game being a trendsetter? Do you think they were just responding to trends? If less people are just trading in, walking into the game to trade in the games, more people like are selling to Chris on eBay and using like digital online retailers
Yeah.
for trade-ins, it might just be a case of it's got to that kind of tipping point where it's like, does it make financial sense for us to maintain this part of the business when it's actually a part of the business that actually does undercut the main part of the business, which is selling new games?
Yeah, well, that's
When
the
people
thing.
aren't, when the footfall isn't there, people aren't buying them, people aren't trading them in, and we've got this entire like stock system that we have to manage. Is it time to just jettison that?
Yeah.
It's really nuts, like the transition, like the whole like retail gaming space is made because like
It's like
I
music though.
worked,
Music did the same thing.
yeah,
Like,
like I worked in a game station when I was like I think I was like 18, 19, just like one of those like
The
daft jobs you had.
dream.
The dream, like for context as well, game station for anybody who doesn't know, it got bought by Game and then like kind of
yeah, shut down.
symbioted um
Venom.
into Game, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember like that, like shops like that, they relied on the second-hand market to actually be sustainable. Like that was like what kept them going, and now it's just completely flipped on its head, and it's just not the same as it used to be.
Yeah.
And I sound like a massive boomer saying, "Ooh, it was better this way, it was better that way." Like, it is very nostalgic for me to know this isn't going to be a.
I actually think the future in brick and mortar game stores is to go more merch based rather than actual game based. As more people do switch over to digital only. Like we've been talking about, how much have we talked about Xbox this show, and specifically regarding Game Pass?
Yeah. Well,
Well,
you've seen it now. Like probably last time I went into
yeah,
a game, it was just filled with like Funko Pops and like
yeah. I think 'cause that's where the
bags
money's
of
going to
stuff.
be. You
Yeah.
have still the charts, but you don't have the same level of depth of the catalog that you used to always have. Like,
No.
I think that is probably just the way it goes,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, it seems like the trading bit's going to disappear as well. CEX could do really well out of this actually, because in the UK it seems like they will be the last like retailer, and that is basically the focus of their business is secondhand trading stuff.
Yeah.
So if game gets rid of that, I imagine whoever the managing director of CEX is like, yep, I like this decision from you've made. This
Yeah.
keeps my business going for a bit longer.
As you said, it's just diminishing returns, isn't it? If this entire generation, everybody's playing Game Pass, that means I ain't trading in a Halo Infinite copy for 50 quid. I ain't trading in Hellblade 2 for 50 quid. It's literally all digital. So there's an entire pillar of their trading business gone. And as you said, as time goes on and less people are buying them, and then we don't have the space to store the stock. And then the longer we hold the stock, it's like assets that have, again, lesser returns. Like, unless you've got some gems in there that you can sell for triple the value, because they do make a lot of profit off the markups, don't they? They give you like £10 trading, but if it's store credit, we'll give you more. So you're spending it within their same ecosystem, or we'll give you 20 pence or something for cash.
Oh, yeah,
And like
cash,
they know what they're doing, and there is a high level of profit
Yeah.
in it, but it's managing that, and it's I'd imagine it's a lot of tedium going through it, and as we've said, just like keeping it on
But
site.
it's not just someone going in and go, oh, here's a stack of games, and go, okay, that's 5, 10, 15, whatever. Here's your money. It's testing them all and
Yeah,
stuff, and
it's
making sure
time.
they're fully functional because they need to resell it, which is all time consuming.
And have a warranty on it, and there's a lot of legal stuff that comes in, but it's a big massive shame. But I cannot see Game surviving till the launch of the PS6 for me personally.
especially not under Mike Ashley. He's not exactly well looked upon.
Yeah.
But
Massive knobhead. But
to eBay and
I was trying to be
Facebook
I was trying to
Marketplace
be
we go.
subtle, Rob.
no, I have too many dealings with like Fraser Group and my work, and no, they're all a bag of dicks. Anyway,
How much would CX trade in for a bag of dicks?
I don't know. Like,
37 pence.
Yeah, like CEX is going to be like laughing about this. Like the CEO. Weirdly enough, do you think the CEO of like CEX is like a dyed hair, Rockstar energy drink,
Yeah,
scruffy jeans, drinking?
absolutely.
I can't imagine anybody like who works at CEX like being like corporate at all. I just imagine it's the same like hungover teenagers that work there, work the shops.
The only
Yeah.
difference is he just looks a bit older.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I worry for, you know, when you play guitar and you build up the calluses on your fingers. I worry for their fingers when, you know, the rate in which they pop discs out to check them. Like all their entire day is just DVDs, Blu-rays, disc.
Just like
That they get home, like my index finger and my thumb are just burnt.
I'm pretty sure they're snapping like at least every 15th disc as well by the speed they go. That's like,
This disc
like,
cracked in half. Yeah, you did that because you were going at 50 mile
like
an hour.
That copy of Man of Steel's just been wrecked now. Okay.
Oh, dear.
Oh, I mean, let's tie things out with a bit more nostalgic. Since we just went down the route of, it was
Calling Mike
gaming
Ashley a
shops were
bag of
better.
dicks.
Yeah, gaming shops were better at our time. We have some pretty big anniversaries happening in 2024 for gaming, and I don't know about you guys, but it just makes me feel very,
Old as
very,
fuck?
very old. Yes. So let's start off with the least offensive to us, and probably to our audience as well, and then move on. So a couple of games are reaching their 10-year anniversary right now. So we've got Goat Simulator, classic, which I think is up to its third iteration now, I want to say.
It's up to a second iteration, but the second one is called Goat Simulator 3.
Okay. We've also got Watch Dogs turning 10-year-old in May. Five Nights at Freddy's is actually 10-year-old now. They've just had a movie come out.
Yeah, there's kids out there who like, I remember growing up with Five Nights at Freddy's. When I remember when we all went on our mate's house and we scared the shit out of each other. And like now those kids are like mid-20s.
Yeah. So we've had like the Evil Within, which for me was like a really underrated game. Perhaps didn't get the pickup it should have, but yeah, good as well. Games that are turning 20-year-old in 2024. This is where it really starts to stink for us, I think. So original Far Cry turns 20 in March. Fable turns 20 as well, which is due for a big revival soon. So hopefully that kind of pans off for it. Star Wars Battlefront, the original, turns 20 in September as well.
List.
Yeah, San Andreas, 20-year-old game.
Yes.
This is such a solid list of games. To be fair.
It is.
It is like how good was 2024 for
2014.
games?
Yeah, 2004.
2004. Sorry, yeah,
Absolutely solid.
San Andreas, Halo 2, Half-Life 2, Metal Gear Solid 3. Again, going back out again.
Half-Life 3 confirmed.
Like just that
That's the one
moment
that got
in
me.
time, lads. Just take it back. You're 14. You've got not got a care in the world. You don't need to worry about income, bills, mortgages. All you have to do is finish school, go home, play San Andreas, Battlefront, Sims, Metal Gear, World of Warcraft, Halo 2. Like just perfection, right? Just
The
utter
problem is
perfection.
I still use World of Warcraft as kind of my touchstone when we talk about games as a service or like especially MMOs, because it's just the one that's so ingrained in my mind. The one I've played by far the most is like, oh shit, it's 20 years old. I probably need to update my references.
Yeah.
I mean, going even further back as well, 25 years ago, original Silent Hill, original Super Smash Bros., Resident Evil 3, so pretty strong year for horror, was 1999. We had Grand Theft Auto 2, which nobody remembers, to be honest.
I remember GTA 2. I had all three. I had 1, 2, and London. Your brown bread, my son. That's what it said. That's what it said when you died. And I remember being really confused initially because I didn't realise that London, you had to put the disc in for GTA 2 and then let it run and then take the disc out and put the disc in for London to work.
It's a reskin of GTA 1.
At
That's
the
all
time,
it was.
as a daft kid, when I'm 9-year-old at this point, like I didn't understand that. I was like, why won't the disc just work when I put it in? To then find out,
Yeah, but no, like lots of great games with like hit anniversary periods.
Crash
Tony
Team
Hawk's Pro
Racing.
Skater. Yeah,
Crash Team
again,
Racing.
like the list is like massive for these time intervals.
If you guys could go back, would you rather go back to the 25 year or the 20 year? If you could place into
am I going back and staying back, or
yeah, you're going back and staying back in that year.
Oh, if you're going back and stay back, you go 25 years ago because you're going 5 years time.
No, you're locked into that year for eternity.
let me think. This is really difficult because I couldn't couldn't drink in either of these
Also,
time
bear
periods.
in mind, yeah, but look at the games you could play.
I think I'm going to go 20 years, although there's some games I actually probably remember more fondly 25 years ago. I think in terms of the quantity and the diversity of games, I think it's a bit better 20
Also,
years ago than
remember
25.
one of them you're 10, one of them you're 15 years old. So think of the rest of your life as well. Would you rather be a 10-year-old
This
or
is the
15?
thing, right? When you're 15, do you go through like that? You'd have to just permanently live in that perpetual state of like angst and
Hormones.
frustration over girls and stuff, wouldn't you? It's like I think I prefer the ignorance of
Being a 9 and 10-year-old, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'll go 9-year-old. I think. Well, 10-year-old because of the way they
I'm going to go
Yeah.
15, despite the fact that I was a massive emo at the time.
You still are.
A bit.
Yeah.
And then for our audience members who are beyond our age.
Oh yeah, should we go
Yeah,
like
yeah.
deeper? What have we got that has turned 30-year-old?
30 years.
Again, it's a good list.
It's not bad, is it? So 1994, couple of years after Foo Fighters' seminal self-titled album, we had The Elder Scrolls Arena drop. Richie, so like the precursor for everything that you
Never
love
played it.
and hold dear about the Elder Scrolls franchise. Earthworm Jim, which
I think I had that
still
on the
somehow
Sega
has-
Mega Drive.
I remember
like
that from
it was a
Sega Mega
version
Drive.
of Earthworm Jim.
Yeah, and then we had a couple of like a Star Wars tie-in, a couple of movie tie-ins like Alien v
I
Predator.
think TIE Fighter was actually really quite well revered in like the PC gaming space.
Yeah, and then we had two big franchises kind of launch actually. So we had Tekken in its first iteration, Paul and his like perfectly vertical spiked hair, and then Need for Speed as well. So Need for Speed is 30-year-old as a franchise now. Quite remarkable.
Absolutely.
So yeah, there's a nice little nostalgia trip down for everybody. But, like the amount of franchise that got built in these periods of time is like massive, right? Like
I mean, it's the fact.
Surprising how much is still around.
I was going to say it's the fact that like we take the year Richie wants to live out eternity in the 20 years ago. Far Cry, possibly a new one coming out this year. Fable, on the cusp of probably next year, I would say. There's a new Sims game in the works. I definitely hope we get a new Battlefront soon. There's a new GTA coming next year. There'll inevitably be a new Halo coming soon. Half-Life 2 is just, that's where the book ended. We get Metal Gear Solid 3 Delta, possibly this year is the rumour. And World of Warcraft, still just chipping away. So it's mad to think that these all existed, but they all exist in some form in gaming today, which is terrific. So long may they live.
absolutely nuts. And on that very happy, very nostalgic, and maybe a bit depressing due to the age-related connotations of it, we're going to end the show here. So, as with every week, thank you very, very much for listening. Enjoy whatever you're going to be playing the week ahead. And again, thank you for your continued and unequivocal support. So, I've been Rob.
I've been Chris.
And I've been itchy.
Yeah, you see, I can put that trademark letter away now. Itchy.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for listening and enjoy your week. In game, whatever makes you happiest. Bye bye.
Bye.
Everyone.